Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. In the expansive galaxy that is Star Wars, there are plenty of gaps in law enforcement, which allows the most daring individuals to hunt the ultimate prey, other sentient beings. No good Star Wars story is complete without a bounty hunter.
Bounty hunters? We don't need that scum.
Yes, sir.
Those rebels won't escape us.
So today we're going to list who we think are the top 10 bounty hunters in the entire franchise. But before we start, we want to set some ground rules. We are going to be looking at the canon version of all these bounty hunters, except for one case where we're going to be looking at a bounty hunter from the Old Republic era. Now we're going to try our best to be objective. So that means, yes, the Clone Wars cartoons will be held at the same level as the original trilogy as far as their use as sources of information. Number 10. Aurra Sing. While many bounty hunters were complete dicks, Aurra Sing was a douchebag. She gets on this list because she was simply willing to do things that other bounty hunters wouldn't. Her ruthlessness and lack of remorse made her extremely dangerous and feared. But in reality, her skills were a lot less intimidating than the reputation she had created for herself. Number 9. Shuggy. The type of people who excelled at bounty hunting were usually selfish individuals who took advantage of every opening that came their way. They also weren't held back by trivial things like morality or feelings. It took a real hero and skilled combatant like Shuggy to be able to survive as a bounty hunter and still be kind of a decent person. Shuggy naturally attracted other like-minded bounty hunters, and they took on noble jobs like protecting farmers from Hondo and his pirates and freeing captives from Trandoshan wildlife preserves. She also wasn't a bad fighter and did fairly well against Maul in hand-to-hand combat. But in the end, her compassion affected the bottom line, and Shuggy, the noble bounty hunter, died in debt. Number 8. Black Crescent. Why is he on this list? Well, he's a Wookiee. And number 2, he's a black-furred Wookiee, which was very rare and made him a target for Trandoshan hunters. And 3, he went up against old Ben Kenobi and actually did a decent job before he fell off a cliff. And he almost defeated Chewbacca and Han Solo single-handedly before R2-D2 shot him in the back of the head with a dirty junkie needle. This farewell would be higher on the list if he actually completed some of his bounties, but I do give him kudos for going up against A-list Star Wars heroes without getting shoved into a Sarlacc pit by a blind guy. Number 7. Calo Nord. Our only legendary bounty hunter on this list. Nord was known as one of the deadliest men of his time and could be recognized by his low-light goggles and dual Mandalorian pistols. Loyal to the highest bidder and addicted to the hunt, Nord was a no-nonsense type of guy. Sometimes he would even shoot people who annoyed him, although to be fair, he usually counted to 3 before he did so.
3.
In the end, his biggest mistake was chasing after Revan, a former Sith Lord and Jedi Knight, who took him apart pretty easily. That was kind of a stupid move. Number 6. Bossk. He's a Trandoshan. He's basically made for hunting. They had infrared vision, super sensitive smell, and could even go toe-to-toe with a Wookiee in unarmed combat. And better yet, they worshipped the god, which rewarded them with points for skinning Wookiees. And Bossk was the best of the Trandoshans. And besides eating all of his hatchmates at birth, he was actually a very honorable and fair bounty hunter. In an industry fraught with psychopaths, criminals, and crazy people, stability and assurance was something all clients wanted, which made Bossk a superb bounty hunter. Number 5. Embo. Embo wasn't much of a leader. As a matter of fact, he was usually working with other groups of bounty hunters. But very few individuals could match his combat skills. Wielding a giant hat as a shield and a bowcaster, Embo was relatively low-tech but made short work of most opponents at close range. He also had an adorable Anuba that always managed to keep his opponents off balance. He was one of the rare bounty hunters that could engage Force users in hand-to-hand combat and escape alive. In the end, the numbers speak for themselves. During the Clone Wars, Embo's bounty tally was only second to one other bounty hunter. Number 4. Bubba Fett. Even from a young age, Bubba Fett was perhaps one of the most dangerous individuals the galaxy had ever seen. He even managed to take out an entire Venator-class Star Destroyer by himself, and almost killed Mace Windu. Eventually, Bubba was arrested and brought to prison, where he wasn't afraid to pick fights with much older and larger prisoners like Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was undercover as a thug who killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a complicated story. After leaving prison, Boba started the Syndicate, a collection of the most dangerous thugs in the galaxy. They were given a routine escort mission where the Syndicate was tasked with protecting an important cargo shipment from raiders. But when fellow crew member Asajj Ventress found out the content of the cargo was a girl being wed against her will, she betrayed Bubba and put him into the cargo container instead, which is kind of embarrassing. After these initial setbacks, Bubba would reach adulthood and become one of the most feared and respected bounty hunters in the galaxy. During the Galactic Civil War, he managed to beat out several incredibly skilled bounty hunters and track down Han Solo and his comrades. But during a routine execution on Tatooine, Bubba was again defeated, this time by a half-blind man still recovering from the effects of being frozen into carbonite. Now, I know, guys, there are a lot of Bubba Fett fanboys out there who are furious that he's not number 1, but the truth is, since Disney has created their own canon, well, he's been nerfed a lot. And yes, that means no more going toe-to-toe with Darth Vader and all of that other crazy stuff he did in the expanded universe. Number 3, Jango Fett. He is the genetic template for number 4 on this list, along with the entire clone army, arguably the best military force the galaxy had ever seen. So what makes Jango Fett better than his clone Bubba? Well, like they say, the original formula is usually better. For one, he was chosen by the Kaminoans and the Sith to be the template because he proved to be one of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. And more importantly, he was a proven Jedi hunter and killer. Although we're not really sure if Jango was actually a Mandalorian, his armor and fighting style was definitely heavily influenced by this warrior race. And everything about the Mandalorians, from their Beskar to crazy assortment of weapons and tricks, were designed to give them an upper hand against one of their oldest foes, the Jedi. And if you can kill a Jedi, you can kill almost anything. And Jango has proven he could even kill Jedi Masters, and sometimes he even made it look easy. I know Coleman Trevor is kind of a goofball, but he was a Jedi Master and he sat on the Council, so he couldn't have been that incompetent. And we also know that Jango has the ability to go toe-to-toe with Obi-Wan Kenobi, who definitely wasn't a joke. In the end, it took Mace Windu, the most skilled duelist in the entire Jedi Order, to cut Bubba Fett down to size. Number 2, Asajj Ventress. I know, it's not really fair because she has force powers and all that other kind of stuff, but let's be honest. Asajj Ventress could easily take out everyone on this list, maybe even all of them at the same time.
Boy, you have no idea who you're talking to. I have been in charge of this whole
You have no idea who you are talking to.
Her force powers just made it extremely unfair. And let's not forget, Asajj Ventress didn't even want to be a bounty hunter. It was kind of like her backup profession. And she only became a bounty hunter because she got annoyed at another bounty hunter at a bar and killed him, and was asked to replace him on a high-paying mission. Ironically, during her time as a bounty hunter, she even rescued Obi-Wan Kenobi, and had to battle against Maul and Savage Opress at the same time at close range. She held her own, and that's not something anyone else on this list could have done. She also managed to capture Ahsoka Tano, which I guess isn't that hard because she is always getting captured, right? Her final target was a personal vendetta, her former master, Count Dooku. In the end, she would fail and lose her life in the process. The only reason Asajj isn't number 1 on this list is because she came into the business late in life, and second, she became soft after leaving the Sith and occasionally let her principles get in the way of her completing a successful bounty. Now, before we go to number 1, there are a few honorable mentions. These are bounty hunters that could have easily made it to the top 10 on a good day. Denjar, old and crude and far from his prime, yet he's still alive and kicking, which just shows you how talented this guy actually was. On top of that, he's also smart enough to wear a giant sheet of metal over his nads. Bravo. Mercurial Swift, named like a porn star and just as fast and agile. It takes either a crazy person or someone who's extremely skilled to use stun batons as their main weapon in a business where most people kill from afar. Jas Amari. It was either her or Sugi on this list. I ended up going with Sugi because she wasn't confused about who she was. On a side note though, Jas did once break one of her horns off her skull in order to use it as a key to escape a prison, so I wouldn't really mess with her either, you know? Sabine Wren, Mandalorian demolition expert. If only she hadn't grown a sense of righteousness and joined the rebellion. Otherwise, she would have made it to the top 10. IG-88, there are many droids like him. But this one went rogue and actually enjoys killing, which kind of makes him human, almost. Zam Wesell. She wasn't that great at her job, but she was great at going undercover. She literally could change her face. Brand. It's really not that terrible being a bounty hunter because you can actually plan your approach to any situation. It's another thing to be a soldier in a war zone and survive battle after battle on the front lines against a much more superior enemy. That actually takes some guts. Now guys, I would keep on going because there is a long list of awesome bounty hunters in Star Wars, as most of you guys know, but then you guys would be accusing me of milking this episode. So let's go on to number 1. Cad Bane. Now, if you look past the fact that he is a cartoon character, he actually is one of the smartest and most successful bounty hunters in the entire Star Wars franchise. This gravelly voiced Duros beat out Embo as the deadliest bounty hunter during the Clone Wars. Which just goes to show you how important it is for a bounty hunter to wear a giant hat. Amongst this list of impressive achievements, he managed to infiltrate the Jedi Temple and steal a holocron. This was a building that was protected by mechanisms that could only be operated by Force users. On top of that, it was guarded by Force-wielding monks who could literally sense people who were up to no good. As if that weren't enough, he then went around kidnapping Force-sensitive babies disguised as a Jedi recruiter, who actually aren't that much better than kidnappers, just a little more polite. As if that weren't enough, he managed to infiltrate the Senate building on Coruscant and hold several senators hostage while extracting the Hutt Zero from a supermax prison. After escaping several times from the likes of Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Bane was finally captured. But it turned out he allowed himself to be captured so he could take a job in prison. He then survived the Box, a bounty hunter tournament held by Count Dooku, and was given leadership of a crazy mission to kidnap Chancellor Palpatine. The mission was ultimately unsuccessful because Obi-Wan Kenobi had infiltrated his gang and betrayed him at the last minute. What made Bane so impressive was not only his skill and intelligence, but his ability to overcome the plot armor of Star Wars. We all know this franchise is famous for allowing its heroes win ridiculous victories over extremely competent bad guys. Besides Palpatine, very few antagonists have had the kind of success that Cad Bane had, which makes him the number 1 bounty hunter. Now guys, I know there's going to be a war in the comments section below. I know everyone has their favorites, and that's great. Please remember that this is just our opinion. It's not official or anything like that. I'll go as far as to admit that I have no idea what I'm talking about most of the time, and I'm not even wearing pants right now. And do remember that Generation Tech was not the one who decanonized all that awesome expanded universe stuff. That was Disney's fault, so don't blame us. Blame Disney. Well, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on all of our latest and greatest content. And a special thanks to all you Patreon supporters out there. We just started a bounty hunting guild. We specialize in terrorizing moisture farmers and hunting down Force users who aren't old enough to walk yet. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.